I would have not been able to pay salaries yesterday. And we would have been another dilemma.
Scenes were witnessed in Bomet County as Area Governor Hilary Barchok announced that the county's health services will remain uninterrupted as the county will be remitting the health workers' salaries by early next week.
Mshahara is a challenge that is cutting across. And we have told our doctors that we have worked with very closely and in a very nice manner that pesa zikikuja, disbursements zikikuja, tutalipa mshahara. Ile mshahara imekosekana sio tu ya madaktari. Kila mtu hata kama na pia ana mshahara.
However, the situation in Vihiga County was very different as health workers announced the official start of their strike. The health workers who vowed not to change their stand said they will only return to work after their salaries are paid in full.
Ambia wananchi ya kwamba sisi tunaomba radhi ya kwamba hamtapata huduma Vihiga, lakini ni kwa sababu wahudumu wa afya hawajapata mishahara zao. Tulitoa mapendekezo kwamba tutengenezewe Health Service Commission. Hiyo Health Service Commission ingekuwa inasuluhisha masuala kama haya ya mishahara na masuala mengine ambayo inahusiana na wafanyakazi wa afya. Lakini tunaona Council of Governors pamoja na National Government wanajikokota kwa hili jambo. Sijui wana interest gani?
Among the 6 counties flagged off as those that are yet to remit salaries of health workers includes Kisumu, Mombasa, Nyamira, Bomet, Vihiga, and Nyandarua. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
And to matter of security, one person is behind bars suspected to be involved in banditry activities. The arrest is the first to be made by authorities since the launch of a joint operation by the National Police Service and the Kenya Defence Forces. The arrest was made within Baringo County with the said bandit believed to be the person behind staging attacks in Laikipia and Baringo counties. The arrest follows days after an announcement by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki of upscaling security personnel. Mwege William tells us more.
The suspected bandit, who goes by the name Kokon, is said to have been on police radar and has been hiding in Korkoron Hills and Tandari staging attacks in Laikipia, Limaiwe, Baringo North, also believed to be the mastermind of banditry attacks in Baringo County. He is seen here clad in shorts, a shuka with Tangulu Bay High School sweater. What is interesting, however, is this pair of sandals made out of worn-out tires, popularly known as a kala, which makes it hard to know the direction he will be heading, a scenario that could be behind law enforcement officials not being able to catch up with them after committing the deadly acts. His body has 2 marks, which is said to have been derived from the number of people he has allegedly killed and the position the person killed holds.
Ataweza kushtakiwa kulingana na sheria. He's 22 years old na tukampata na bunduki na ng'ombe 2 kati ya zile 77 ambazo walikuwa wameiba wiki jana. Atastakiwa kulingana na hiyo incident ya last week, na pia baada ya wizi wakati walikuwa narudi upande wa Tiate East waliweza kupata mzee mmoja ambaye alikuwa analima shamba yake na wakampiga risasi. Kwa hivyo pia hiyo ni count ambaye atachajiwa naye kotini.
Area residents have been called upon to work together with security apparatus deployed in the area in an effort to end banditry, calling for arrest of more suspected bandits.
Sisi peke yetu tutaweza kumaliza hiyo uhalifu, lakini tukiweza kupata information kutoka wananchi kama ile tulipata jana, ndio tukaweza kufaulu namna hiyo, na tunatarajia kwamba ushirikiano huu utaendelea ili tuweze kumaliza hii shida ambayo imekidhi upande wa Baringo.
So as we laud this move that this bandit or the mastermind, as they are calling him, has been arrested, we want to ask for more arrests.
In the recent attack in Nosuruko, So Collins Kwenyiko, a peace ambassador in Tiati, was shot dead. The suspected bandit, who was apprehended late Tuesday, was arraigned in court with officers processing him for murder charge. Mwege William, TV47.
Well, let's talk about your hot plate of ugali right now. And the government is projecting per 2 kg packet. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says that the government has put a raft of measures to make sure the food price drops significantly. However, Gachagua insisted that the government will not subsidize unga. This coming a day after Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi said that the government will ensure this particular subsidies will have duty-free maize until 6th of August to avoid market competition with the farmers.
The cost of unga was 230 shillings. We have progressively, through good thinking and planning, without any subsidy, brought the cost down to 190, to 180, to 170, to 160. As we talk today, on the shelf, there are many supermarkets offering unga at 159 shillings, up to 155. And I can tell you it will continue going down, awaiting the harvest in September. And after the harvest, because of the intervention that we have done to assist our farmers with subsidized fertilizer, we intend and we believe we'll be able to bring down the cost of unga to about 130, about 120. And that is what is sustainable. The Auditor General has issued a report that 34 billion shillings for the fuel subsidy cannot be traced. It was about theft. About the subsidy of unga, the one we were told that is 100 shillings, nobody found that unga anywhere. 8 billion shillings was spent at the National Treasury, and the millers are still asking for their money. All that money was stolen and diverted to the Azimio campaign.
Right now, moving on, 3 days after Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu visited Sacred Heart Mukumu Girls High School, Kakamega, the new school management as well as the leaders in the area are busy working around the clock to ensure the school resumes normalcy. And as Violet Oma reports, the Western Region Commissioner Malaria has announced that the school had closed for 2 weeks. The school that had closed for 2 weeks will reopen on the 2nd next month.
2 weeks after Mukumu Girls High School was closed indefinitely after the outbreak of unknown disease, stakeholders have begun measures to reopen the learning facility. This comes 3 days after the Education Minister Ezekiel Machogu visited the school and announced the new management of the school, as well as ordered the destruction of cereals in the stores and overhaul of the water system at the school. The Western Region Commissioner, Malaria has said that they are planning to have a parents' meeting in the school on 29th before the school reopens on the 2nd next month as scheduled.
Tumerekebisha mambo mengi na bado tutachimba kizima cha katika shule ndio watoto waweze kupata maji safi ya kutumia. Pia kutokana na wafadhili ambao wanashirikiana na Wizara yetu ya Elimu, walete mtambo wa kusafisha maji ambao saizi unajengewa hapo. Chakula chenye chiko kwa gara walikuwa wamenunua, wameweka kwa store, kuna mahindi kidispose kwa njia gani na tuweze kununua chakula kingine kipya.
Irungu has said that they have put in place strategies including ensuring that those students who are expected to reopen in phases are examined before entering the school.
Tumesema tutapanga vikao vya kuja kushauri, inaitwa counseling ya walimu. Counseling pia ifanywe kwa wafanyikazi wengine wa shule ambao wasiwa kusomesha.
The Form 4 students are expected to resume fast before the other students. The commissioner called on politicians to cooperate to the new school management for the betterment of the learners.
Tangulia na wale wanakalia mtihani mwaka huu Form 4, kufuatiwa na Form 3, Form 2, Form 1. Kisha wakija hapa tutakuja tuangalie tuone hali yao ya afya, kwa hivyo tunaweza wapima tuone kama wako sawa kiafya kabla tuwaingie kwa shule tuanze kuwasomesha.
On Friday last week, the Ministry of Health informed the public that the disease is likely to be a mixture of E. coli and Salmonella typhi, which usually occurs if water sources are contaminated with these microorganisms. On Saturday, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu visited the school following the death of 4 people, 3 students and a teacher, and the hospitalization of more than 500 students following contamination of food and water at the school. Violet Auma, TV47, Kakamega.
Now, meanwhile, police in Murang'a County have cancelled Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Thursday's town hall meeting. Murang'a County Police Commander David Matthew said the notice was submitted late, explaining that the notice ought to have been submitted 4 days prior, but the police only received it on Tuesday. Mike Kagongo tells us more.
Murang'a County Police Commander David Matthew announced on Wednesday that they have cancelled the Azimio meeting scheduled for Thursday. Former Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria had submitted a notice for the meeting to the law enforcement officers on Tuesday, April 18th. The town hall meeting was set to be attended by Azimio leaders including Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, George Wajakoya, former area Governor Mwangi wa Iria, and Jeremiah Kioni. The former Murang'a governor was at Murang'a police station on Tuesday to submit the notice, saying the meeting will be purely an engagement forum between the leaders and the locals.
It will be a discussion. We shall get as many views as possible about this shareholder, non-shareholder business. A non-shareholders meeting. And non-shareholders are those people who are not supposed to enjoy the national cake, according to Gachagua. Those people who cannot pay school fees, those people who cannot afford a meal, those people who cannot afford Medicare.
The Usawa kwa Wote party leader, who recently vowed to lead the demonstrations against the Kenya Kwanza in the region, said the meeting's agenda will be seeking inclusion of the common mwananchi in the government.
Those people who are unemployed and everybody who must be denied because he or she didn't vote for or support Kenya Kwanza. So the meeting will happen at Mothers Union, and it will be a deep engagement meeting. It will be the first meeting for non-shareholders.
According to Matthew, the event was called off because the concerned party failed to meet the 4-day legal requirement for submitting notices. Matthew added that security will not be guaranteed since police officers have already been deployed elsewhere. This is a blow to the opposition ahead of planned resumption of country-wide demonstrations at the end of Ramadan to pressure the President William Ruto-led administration to meet their demands. Azimio raised concerns over bipartisan talks due to lack of goodwill from the Kenya Kwanza side, which they accused of dishonesty. Mike Kagongo, TV 47.
Let's talk Banta's devolution now, and the government will soon release money to the county governments. This is according to the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, who spoke in Mombasa County, maintaining that the 5th administration will reduce the borrowing and increase efforts in effective revenue collection to service the debts and payment of salaries.
Speaking in Mombasa as he officially opened the Deputy Governor's consultative meeting, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has cited a ray of hope to devolved units on receiving their equitable share very soon after a 4-month delay. Gachagua relates the delay to the debt burden currently threatening the Kenyan economy while announcing the national government focus on recovery through effective revenue collection and less borrowing.
We have agreed as a government that the only way to restore the economy of this country to where President Mwai Kibaki left us is to fund our budget through revenue collection. That is why last month we had a slight challenge. There was a slight delay on payment of salaries because the previous administration used to borrow money from banks owned by the same leaders to pay salaries. And we have said no. We are paying salaries by collecting revenue. So there was a slight delay, but all salaries have now been paid. So we are collecting some more money, and shortly the governors will do another disbursement to enable our counties function.
It is in this forum that the DP called for proper working relations between the governors and their deputies, noting that harmony will play a role in ensuring that the county mandates thrive.
Let's agree that as deputies, we have to be humble to our bosses, we have to respect them, we have to consult them, and it's our job to create a good working relationship. I I ask governors across the country to make good use of their deputies.
The 7 ladies and 40 gentlemen serving as deputy governors in respective counties have converged to familiarize themselves with their roles, define challenges and areas of improving the third term of devolved government. Through their chairperson, Martin Moshisho, they call upon the governors to allocate their offices with roles and responsibilities as they seek to enhance devolution.
From this meeting, we will request the Council of Governors to write deputy governors to issue executive orders so that the office of the deputy governor is allocated clear roles and responsibilities, just like the counterpart office of the deputy president at the national level.
Representing the Council of Governors, Stephen Sang, also the Nandi County Governor, has assured a good working relationship with the Deputy Governors while highlighting delayed disbursement of funds as one challenge that has threatened effective service delivery, thus calling on the government to make haste and resolve the issue.
Your Excellency, the Deputy President, as our Chair of IBEC, we plead that you strongly advance this agenda and push to have timely disbursements of resources to counties to avoid the clipping of county operations.
Paul Muniu, TV47, Mombasa.
Right now, let's focus on matters, a burning issue, matters road carnage. Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has issued new directives to the National Transport and Safety Authority, that is NTSA, following the increased cases of accidents on the road that has seen many people lose their lives. Among other directives, school buses carrying students will not be allowed to travel between 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Paul Kirby tells us why.
Question 3. Explain the measures that the ministry is taking to ensure that the stored works resume and that all pending bills are immediately settled. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
7 months after taking oath of office, the CS for Transport Kipchumba Murkomen is facing an uphill task in his ministry, starting from incomplete projects and cash crunch in government. The latest challenges being the increase of road carnage. It is just yesterday where at least 6 students were killed in a grisly road accident near Delamere Farm in Naivasha. While responding to questions from lawmakers, Murkomen directed that school buses will not be allowed to travel at night from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. in light with the traffic rules, and all students must tighten their functional safety belt to be safe.
School vans, buses and matatus that are unroadworthy must be removed from the roads with immediate effect. In the meantime, Mr. Speaker, in the implementation of the Intelligence Road Safety Management System, all heavy commercial operators must ensure vehicles with tare weight of 3,049 kilograms and above are fitted with speed limiters effective immediately.
All the 57 licensed speed limiters vendors must install approved gadgets that will limit and record speed data after every 5 seconds and transmit to NTSA to ensure all public vehicles operates with functional speed limits.
A multi-agency clinic shall be formed to verify and validate all speed limiters from 25th of April 2023 to 31st May 2023. All stakeholders, including public transport operators, speed limiter vendors, and the National Police Service, will be incorporated into this multi-agency exercise.
Cameras will be installed in all black spot areas where accidents have been occurring. Drivers of public service vehicle and commercial vehicles will be required to undergo every 3 years training for renewal of license and also undergo a physical fitness test and eye test. The CS staff measures comes one day after the cabinet meeting at State House, where the issue of road accidents dominated the meeting, with the cabinet directing the police and the National Transport and Safety Authority to rein in on the recklessness on the roads that has resulted in loss of lives.
On the enforcement of proliferation of substandard products in automotive industry, it has been noted from the crash, Mr. Speaker, investigations that most of the crashes are caused by tire burst, brake failure while on high speed, while others were caused by crashing into vehicles mounted with substandard retroflective strip stars, affecting visibility of the road. To address this, I have directed NTSA to form a multi-agency enforcement team, bringing together Anti-Counterfeit Agency, Kenya Bureau of Standards, National Police Service.
Nonetheless, Murkomen could not let go the challenges he's facing in completing government projects due to financial constraints. He reiterated that Kenya Kwanza government will complete previous projects, where 800 projects are still stalled, before starting new one.
Some of the contractors, we owe them up to 17 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker, some of the local contractors, we owe them up to 5 billion. I totally appreciate them for their patience, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank some of the banks that, as a result of our intervention, have been kind to the contractors, because a number of them could easily have lost their property, Mr. Speaker, through auction as a result of non-payment of the facilities they have received.
Murkomen is the third CS to appear before lawmakers to answer questions on how the ministries are doing. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Story by Paul Kirobi takes us to a first short break. On the other side of this particular short break, I'll be telling you more about the preparations for the World Malaria Day and also the latest in matters the Sudan power struggle. Stick around.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki history. Nikifika watu wangu wakinipokea na kupokeleka. Umeset the mood. Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikisema kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku, na katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea. Siku nyingine tutapatana papa hapa, umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa ni ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii, mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country. Indeed, to the remotest parts of every county. Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international located in the heart of Thika.
This is the pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you'll never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort unforgettable at the Mwai Kibaki.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Disability is a club that anyone can join.
I live with special needs. It means I have a limitation. There are things I can't be able to do personally myself.
And in our journey to talk about disability, we tell the stories of those with disabilities. And
the World Health Organization has strongly condemned the attacks on health facilities in Sudan. This even as the death toll in the country has risen to at least 270. Now, despite reports that both the Sudan Armed Forces and the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces have agreed on a 24-hour ceasefire starting 6 p.m., fighting is still underway, a situation many opine will escalate the humanitarian crisis.
Wednesday, such loud explosions could be heard near the presidential palace and its environs here in Khartoum, Sudan. with residents living here forced to stay indoors as bullets rented the air. The ongoing power struggle in Sudan has seen the death toll rise to at least 270, with an estimated 2,600 others nursing injuries, according to the Sudan Ministry of Health. This, even as medical facilities have been greatly affected by the war, with the World Health Organization condemning the attacks on medical personnel.
Attacks on healthcare are a flagrant violation of humanitarian law and the right to health. And they must stop now. It's absolutely critical for everybody concerned that those attacks stop. We do have a lot of staff, many of them, and our staff are currently, I understand, are safe, but it's also one of our crucial things, as for all our sister agencies, to protect their safety.
This is the only bakery that is open in Al Mazar neighborhood in Khartoum North, a clear representation of the looming humanitarian crisis in not only the capital city, but also other areas affected by the war. Despite the Sudan Armed Forces, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, as well as the paramilitary group RSF, led by General Mohammed Hamdan, agreeing to a fresh 24-hour ceasefire, there have been reports of an ongoing fighting. This comes on the backdrop of a call for a ceasefire from President William Ruto Wednesday, further urging the two generals to comply with the resolutions made by IGAD heads of state Sunday.
There is real danger that the escalation of hostilities in Sudan could implicate external, regional, and international actors and degenerate into a security and humanitarian crisis on a disastrous scale. It is therefore critical for an international coalition of all the actors that have been involved in supporting the restoration of civilian rule in Sudan to act with urgency.
With just 6 days left to the World Malaria Day celebrations slated for the 25th of April in Nyamira County, there has been a significant decline in malaria cases, not only in Kenya, but globally. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, investment, innovation and implementation have been described as key tools to fight malaria so as to attain the zero malaria goal.
Malaria is a major public health concern in Kenya and the world and has so far claimed lives of 11.7 million people from 2 billion cases reported between the year 2000 to 2021. The elimination is in sight if the strides made in the past decade are anything to go by. Currently, malaria prevalence in Kenya is at 6%. This is after a significant reduction from 8% in the last 5 years. The numbers have reduced from 122 to 93 per thousand population, with Busia County recording a 96% reduction in malaria cases due to indoor spraying.
In the last decade, we have reduced the prevalence of malaria by over 50%, and the number of new malaria cases has also significantly decreased.
But the burden of malaria still appears to be higher in the African continent, which accounts for 234 million cases from the 247 million reported cases globally. In 2022, the world reported 619,000 deaths from malaria, with Africa accounting for 593,000 of the deaths. However, according to World Health Organization in Africa, 82% of cases and 95% of deaths were averted.
Out of 40 million pregnancies, 13.3 million, representing 32%, were exposed to malaria infection during pregnancy, which increases the risk of low birth weight. East and Southern Africa had the highest prevalence of exposure to malaria during pregnancy at 41%.
Additionally, the country is seeing the proportion of outpatient visits for malaria falling. So there has been a recorded decline from 16% in 2017 to 6% in 2022.
And as different stakeholders in the health sector call for investment, innovation and implementation as key tools in the fight against malaria, the funding set aside for malaria prevention and control in the country has this year been reduced to $1.4 million.
The proportion allocated to malaria has gone down by 10%. So it is time to actually do strong advocacy, mobilize resources for the fight against malaria, specifically domestic resources, through very innovative approaches.
We're talking about 16 years. Through our strong partnerships with the National Malaria Program and the government of Kenya, the President's Malaria Initiative has invested $500 million.
As of February this year, over 1.1 million children under the age of 5 received the RTSS malaria vaccine, with 386,000 receiving at least one of the 4 doses.
WHO is aware of the new innovation, the new R21 malaria vaccine, as a potential vaccine of public health importance and awaits the expert review processes before a WHO recommendation can be made.
Gains made in malaria prevention and control may, however, be hampered by the emergence of the new mosquito species, Anopheles stephensi, reported in Laisamis and Saku areas of Marsabit County. The new species, which has the potential to increase malaria cases by 50%, is said to be resistant to several insecticides like mosquito repellents and bed nets.
The target is to reach over 134,093 children annually in 8 counties around Lake Victoria, in Nyanza and Western Kenya, where malaria is endemic.
The No Malaria Kenya has also developed a repellent dubbed Mozi, which is infused with fabrics and can be used on textiles, clothing, beddings, and paints. The company's CEO, Dr. Asher Owino, tells us the repellent will help in preventing the spread of the Anopheles stephensi, which has proven to be resistant to some of the repellents.
It has a unique technology in its formulation. It uses a number of ingredients which gives a strong binder of the existing pyrethroid, the permethrin that is in use, and then this additional pesticide which is combined with Mozi that gives it, helps it to mitigate against the risk of resistance which you've seen in the vector.
The Ministry of Health, the World Health Organization, USAID, and other partners from the private sector today joined hands to launch the Kenya Malaria Elimination Plan 2021-2023 and other tools that outline the implementation pathway of malaria elimination in the country. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
To classroom matters now, and President William Ruto has extended the term of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms on 9th June 2023. On 30th September 2022, Ruto appointed the Professor Rafael Mnavu Working Party, which was tasked with reviewing the competency-based curriculum that was then at a crossroads when it was not clear the direction grade 7 learners were to take. In December 2022, the Working Party presented an interim report to Ruto, and in it was direction on having junior secondary schools domiciled in existing primary schools. In February this year, the Working Party presented a second report touching issues affecting universities, but Ruto was not impressed by the recommendations, and the Working Party went back to the drawing board. Also, Murang'a County Security Committee, in partnership with the County Liquor Licensing Board, is working on various measures to reduce the number of bars in the county by more than half. The County Commissioner, Patrick Mukuria, says there are more than 2,000 bars in Murang'a, adding that the board has received about 3,000 new applications for liquor outlets. Speaking during a meeting that brought together members of national government government administration officers and those from the County Liquor Licensing Board in his office. Mukuru says members of the Liquor Licensing Board will evaluate the new applications and come up with a strategy on how to reduce the number of bars as they restrain opening of new bars.
We cannot afford to be corrupt on this exercise. Otherwise, whoever will be caught engaging in corruption so that they can license this bar, I think appropriate action will be taken, and a very stern one for that matter. If you compare the numbers of bars and the number of schools, you'll be shocked. One, you take a sub-county like Katanga. At the moment, we have 349 bars or alcoholic outlets against 92 schools. Take another example of Kahuro. Kahuro, we have 218 alcoholic outlets against 70 primary schools and 42 secondary schools. We have already commenced and intensified crackdown. Over the weekend, we have arrested many people in connection with dealing with illicit brew, people selling outside the stipulated hours, others selling drugs like banks, and we are even some chemists also selling some drugs to our youths. And we are on high alert. That is something that we are dealing with, and we will continue to deal with it until we eradicate the menace.
As a county government, we really want to involve the national government and also the public health. We want to be as fair as possible to ensure we close down those outlets that are not worth being there. Because we have realized we have even some bars in the villages, we have some bars even near the residential houses, even some bars near schools. So with the public health laws, we are very, very sure that one is doable and is going to reduce it to a manageable level.
Let's talk business now, and the government is looking at ways of making trade and investment available for small companies. This is according to Trade Permanent Secretary Alfred Kombudo, who says Kenya has immense potential to lead in trade and investment in the region by creating green products that can be sold at a premium rate. Further, the PS says the government is in talks with the different stakeholders to create market-specific products that can be sold across the world. The PS was speaking during a trade conference meeting.
Kenya has immense opportunities and capabilities to provide strong leadership in the area of our transition into the green economy. And what does that involve? From the perspective of trade and investment, it means that right from the point of production, we have to see how we are using energy. We have to see how we are reusing energy resources more efficiently. We have to see how our production processes are observing and complying with our own international commitments to how we use various inputs that go into the product. We have strong advantages here because at least 90%, I believe, or so of our energy mix is renewable, and therefore that puts us in a very strong position. If, like Martin says, we make sure that the others are also green, then we have not just a green product, but we have a product that can also be sold at premium terms.
To trade with the EU, if you export to the EU, you really have to keep in mind that at the moment, one of the most important things in the EU is the fight against climate change and sustainability. This afternoon, we have a next round on the discussion on the EPA, on the Economic Partnership Agreement, where the sustainability agenda is on the table as well. And so, on the one hand, you can see this as non-trade barriers, that we always, when there's articles in the newspaper, particularly if my friend Ojipat from FPC writes an article, it's always about those horrible Europeans think of some kind of new way of closing their market to Kenyan products. We don't closing our market to the Kenyan products. We don't at all. But in the EU, we got stricter measures to make sure that the climate and that anything that is produced is more sustainable. And whatever is valid for our own producers has to be valid, has to apply to everything we import as well.
And in the wonderful world of sports, Ferdinand Omanyala has continued with his emphatic start to the season after he clocked 10.06 seconds to win the second ASA Grand Prix at the Jamestown Stadium, South Africa. This was Omanyala's second race in South Africa, coming days after he won the first ASA Grand Prix in Tuks Stadium, where he clocked a time of 10.12 seconds. Kenyan Samuel Imeta clocked 10.22 to finish second, while Sibusiso